Okay, so it's time to introduce the learning targets. As we did in an earlier session or an earlier section of this, there was the essential question, the long-term learning target, and one of the supporting targets. So this really helps us frame the work of the 2 days using a strategy that we really encourage teachers to do in the classroom. So we have the 4 or 5 supporting learning targets that get to the long-term learning target of I can design a quality performance assessment. In this column here, and you're going to take the participants through each of this, there's the assessment or the evidence that we're going to ask teachers to provide during the 2 days. So we use these as assessment for learning strategies. So we can talk about, for example, I can analyze performance assessment for quality. How would we know that participants understand and have met that learning target? An example here is the rubric markup, and Justin will take you through that section later, and the discussion later. So all the time as facilitators, we're not only presenting information, but we're assessing participant understanding and the meeting of that learning target. And then over here is the look for, or the criteria for success of meeting that learning target. And what we're saying is that the performance assessment rubric, that once again participants will meet later, provides the criteria of a quality performance assessment. So take participants through each of these learning targets, looking at the assessment for learning and the criteria for success that sets participants up for the 2 days, and also allows you as a facilitator to think through what do you need to be doing in order to assess participant understanding of that learning target. So an assessment for learning strategy. This is a tracking my progress chart. Participants will need to print this up prior to the PD session, and it may be smart just to have some extra copies in case that's not technologically possible. Create this as a large poster, because we'll see later in the day that participants will come back to actually marking up their small document and the poster size. The small document is an opportunity for participants to reflect where they are on each of the learning targets at that moment in the day. They do this individually to really reflect on where they are. They then transfer their assessment of their learning to the larger chart, so we have a group understanding of where we are. Okay? If we ask participants to purely go to the large poster and put a color dot on day 1, it's going to be red, and we're going to color code this throughout the 3 times that they do that. There may be a tendency to be influenced by what other people have already put up there, and it's not such an assessment process. So provide participants maybe 5 minutes to reflect on where they are in their own learning. Logistically, if you have a large group, it's probably difficult and time-wise a stretch to allow them to go up to the poster at that moment to put their dots up. So maybe a break, they can go up and do that. But just think through how many participants you have and logistically how that's going to work. But the idea is for every group member to have their individual Tracking My Progress chart complete where they think they are right now, and group-wise a color dot representing where the group lies. Okay, norms. This is really important as well with a large group. Depending on who you're working with, there may already be norms for the school or the district, but it's smart to really outline to say, we really need to have norms for us to work together. Thinking through the learning, there may be some envision norms that you want to put up on a chart to sort of whet the appetite and to get thinking. Otherwise, a way to do this is to maybe ask participants to work in 2s and just come up with what are some norms that you would need in order to be successful over the next 2 days. Share out, collect the norms on a chart paper, give some time to think through any additions. It's important to come back to this at the end of day 1 and the beginning of day 2 just to check in to say, how do we do with our norms, any revisions, any changes to those norms to allow us to work successfully.